Hey, it is Greg Milby, and this is Kentucky's Heartland. And I have two guys with me here today. Our very first interview on Kentucky's Heartland.com. So we welcome in Mayor-elect, and at the point that this will be available, Mayor of E-Town, Jeff Gregory, and Mayor of Radcliff, J.J. Duvall. And it's kind of weird saying that again, actually saying it with both of you here.
Yeah, we're both glad to be here.
All right, pull that microphone up close. See, we're going to get this down because, by the way, I'm just going to go ahead and say I can't be held responsible for what will be said during this interview because when we get together, it's not always a pleasant thing.
Well, that's probably an appropriate disclaimer.
Yeah, well, I'm concerned that you're going to think I'm flexing the whole time I'm holding this mic up, Greg.
But
so
we just know that it's just a little jacket. That's what we know. So we'll start with you, Mayor Gregory. Can I just call you Jeff?
Let's just go with Jeff.
All right. So, what made you decide that you wanted to seek public office?
Well, my professional career has been in public service. So 22 years, 4.5 with the Hardin County Sheriff's Office, and then almost 18 with the Kentucky State Police. And I've always felt like my calling was to help people. And I love my police career, and I enjoyed doing it a lot, but I felt like it kind of run its course, and I'd had enough of the police business, and I wanted to enter into a different avenue where I could assist and help people, and I always had an interest in politics, and I took a leap of faith. Melissa and I did some talking, and back in about March is when we started looking at it, and the first week of May, after I retired, the last week of April, we filed to run for the mayor's seat here in Elizabethtown, and it was a long 6 months of campaigning, but obviously it worked out, and it's hopefully going to be worthwhile. But to answer your question, public service, that's what I'm about.
Now, you didn't wait around at all. I mean, as soon as the election was over with, you got to work even though you weren't getting paid yet.
I did. There's a lot to learn. It's a big job. We have, as we were discussing earlier, there's over 300 city employees in Elizabethtown, and that's before the summer hits, and we have some seasonal employees as well. So I wanted to get up there and put some names with some faces. Mayor Berger, who is, our current mayor and until the end of the year, and Charlie Bryant, who's the executive assistant, who's been there for 44 years. Those kind of people just don't come around very often. So when you can touch on some of that wisdom and experience and ask questions from people that know, you need to take advantage of that time. So that's why I was trying to go to City Hall every day.
Now, JJ, with you, we've talked. Oh, my gosh, man, we've had so many conversations over the years, and some that were kind of off the record were just like, all right, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Yeah. I never thought I would see you back as mayor of Radcliff, but can I say I'm very happy and excited to see you back leading Radcliff.
It's like we talked before we started, it's a great opportunity for our communities. It's a great opportunity. Pam unfortunately couldn't make it today, but Pam, Ogden, Billy Ash, some of the people down the south end of the county. We're excited to have along with Jeff. I've known Jeff for years. I've known the family for years, and so it's good to see people in that you have a good working relationship with. And when you're in this job, just like you in police work or you in your past life in radio, there's only a handful of people that understand what you go through. So when you're able to have somebody in there that you have a good working relationship with, a colleague, a friend, to just kind of lean on and call and complain, or hey, what are you doing here? What are you doing there? It really helps the communities, and it really helps communities grow together. And that's what Tim and I and a lot of the other mayors back then had.
So what made you seek the role of mayor again?
Ego. No, I'm just joking. No. Ultimately, I sat out for, of course, I ran for county judge and fell a little short on that race. And so I had the opportunity under Mayor Weaver to fulfill a position, economic plan and building director. And so we've got some great projects we're working on, some large projects. And so when Mayor Weaver decided he wasn't going to seek a re-election, I said, it's not about pay by any means, of course, because I'm going backwards and pay quite a bit. And really, it's like what Jeff said. It's about for your community, it's service, and wanting to see a community you're born and raised in succeed. And so that opportunity presented itself, and I ran, and of course, here we are today. So, yeah, very excited about those opportunities that to shape my community, really.
You mentioned Mayor Ogden as well from Vine Grove. We will have another interview with her that'll be posted on this website as well, so you'll be able to see that. So, we go back to where, we go back quite a few years where we can talk about Colonel Bruce Jenkins and when Tim Walker was mayor of E-Town and you were Mayor of Radcliff and Mayor Ash in Vine Grove and Mayor Prophet in Vine Grove and Mayor Ash in Muldrow. There was a lot of great camaraderie there. Is that something we're going to see again? Because, right away, I know that you showed up for him, and he showed up for you for your swearing in. So that says a lot. Why was that important for you guys to be there?
Well, as he mentioned earlier, we've known each other a long time. It dates back all the way to high school, college years, or even in our teens. We've been around each other, and regionally, it's important that Radcliff and E-Town and the county and West Point and Muldrow and Vine Grove and the different communities get along, because while we're trying to drive development in our respective cities or improve our respective cities, if you can do it regionally, that brings everybody up, and it makes it that much easier on you when you're just trying to do it in your own city. So I think we have a lot of great people in place now where we can sit and talk, and hey, if he's got a piece of equipment that he needs for a day that E-Town has, he can call down there and say, hey, Jeff, can you send this up here? Yeah, no problem. And that's the way that teamwork. I've always been a ball player, and we've always been involved in sports and different things, and that's the way you get things done. You lean on each other, and you become good teammates, and you count on each other and trust each other, and I think that's what we're going to have.
Yeah. One of the things, and Jeff hit on it, we needed a vac truck to clean out a sewer pipe up there in Radcliff one time. And I called Tim, and Tim sent 2 guys up and a vac truck up and helped us all day long, clean it out. He didn't have to do that. We've sent our equipment over to Vine Grove and helped Vine Grove do some, teach them how to do the brine machine, because those guys over there, the public works guys, needed help learning how to brine. And so, it's definitely working together. Ruffle Girl from Radcliff, in Radcliff now, was a call that I got from Rick Gaines because he couldn't find a place for him in E-Town. So he called me, and that's where they're located at now. And so, I think teamwork is huge. One of the things I also want to point out, what I think is great, Jeff is the youngest mayor that's ever been in Elizabethtown. I think, 44, Jeff? Is that right? Yeah. And so, I was the youngest mayor one time in Radcliff at 30.
How old you are. Just go ahead and say it.
Yeah. What are you, 52 now?
I'm 44
Oh,
as
sorry.
well.
Yeah, sorry.
What are you, 39?
39. So I'll be 40 this year. So go come.
That's a lot of gray for a 39 year
That
old.
means so he's the second youngest mayor now.
Yeah.
And the first.
Yeah. So it's a good thing, because I think it brings a lot of energy and excitement behind that, and a willingness to see, because we have young families. And we want to see those things also carry into that side through recreation. I know Jeff's a big recreation guy, big sports guy. And so one of the biggest things that Elizabethtown has that also benefits Radcliff and our economic development is a sports park. And so that's a huge thing for him. And I don't want to speak on your behalf, but I know that's a big thing for you. So, you couple all those things together economically, and it's just a benefit to have great relationships with your partners.
As somebody who's worked here for 17 years, but have lived here for 6 years, one of the things that has always bothered me is this invisible Mason-Dixon line between E-Town and Radcliff. I know folks that have been here forever, they talk about that, and it just always seems to be that Mason-Dixon line is W.A. Jenkins Road. It's right there at John Hardin. What do you guys plan to do to eliminate that, to get rid of that? What's your plans?
Well, I know one right there in front of Baskin Robbins and Papa John's, right there in front of John Hardin. That's in Radcliff, but Jeff had a sign there, and I couldn't put my sign up because his sign, I want to confuse people. So he's already made the effort to come into Radcliff.
Hey, you got to extend those boundaries, Greg.
But no, it is. It's always been that way, and being from the other side, we talk about Big Brother, and the thing I like to point out is Elizabethtown is a regional destination point, not just a local destination point. People from Litchfield, LaRue County, Hodgensville, you just look at all the surrounding cities that utilize the opportunity in retail and shopping that they have in Elizabethtown. A lot of times people in my community don't necessarily look at it that way. They just see a Lowe's, they see a Target, they see Starbucks is probably the latest. Why don't we have one of those? Mm-hmm. And so we don't ever look from our perspective at Vine Grove. How come we don't have what Vine Grove has? Or why don't I have what West Point has? Or why don't, we always look at the next big guy. And so I think for me, it's going to be getting back to that, hey, let's be happy for what we have in our community and then work towards gaining. We shop down here. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm down here today. I mean, it's, I agree, Greg. We've got to break those boundary lines. And, Jeff and I'll let him talk a little bit about it, have some ideas of how we bring friendly competition back to our communities and really bring that spirit of community back. So.
We talking sports competitions? Because, no offense, his prowess in athletics is pretty strong.
Yeah.
I've not heard a lot about your athletic prowess in all the years.
I don't like to brag.
You don't want to put it out there.
So, Jeff, what do you think about the Mason-Dixon line, getting rid of it?
Well, I think a lot of it's just perception. You know, I have a lot of great friends in Radcliff, and I think a lot of people from Elizabethtown or vice versa, Radcliff to E-Town, get along well and are business partners and different things. I think maybe that stigma goes back 30, 40, 50 years, and we're trying to help break that down a little bit. And like I said earlier, you know, regionally is what we want to see everybody succeed regionally. And E-Town is a good economic engine and a good economic driver for the surrounding communities. And it's not about greed. We want to make sure that everybody, for lack of a better term, eats. It's not about us getting it all. So we want to make sure that we have great relationships. And JJ and I do have that, and we'll continue to have that. And we're going to work together and try to plan a few things that maybe will help that perception out along the way. One of the things we talked about earlier, he's a North Hardin grad, and of course I'm a Elizabethtown High School grad, and kind of like UK and U of L do with the Governor's Cup in football. We may come up with a great big trophy and talk to Coach Mark Brown and Coach Brent Thompson and see if we can inspire those kids a little bit and give them a little bit to play for and call it the Mayor's Cup or something. I don't know, but you know, I think that would be great. Just a little friendly rivalry, and JJ can take me out to eat every year after he loses.
Yeah, definitely. Colton's where we'll do it at.
That's usually where everything ends up. You know, let's talk too. Years ago, there was a lot of focus on community activities, community events in Radcliff. It seems over the last couple of years, it hasn't been as much of a focus on the community events. I know folks may not know, but the hard-boiled egg-eating championships that was in Radcliff, that brought some of the biggest professional eaters in the world, started from us watching basketball in my basement. So what are your plans? Because I know you're more of an activity guy. Do you have plans for that?
Yeah, I think, you know, anytime you have community spirit, whether it's a parade, festival, concert, it just brings community out to fellowship. And that was one of the things, you know, Jeff and the other fellow mayors will be coming up January 26th for the Mayor's Breakfast. We call it the Mayor's Breakfast in Radcliff. It started off initially just to be a community breakfast at the beginning of the year to kind of get a fresh start, a fresh perspective, and get people to socialize and fellowship, all donated products. And over the last 8 years, it has been really culminated into what we initiated it for is to bring people together. And so this year, we want to make sure that, you know, Jeff and Mayor Ogden and Billy and all the surrounding guys, including Colonel County, you know, stand in the receiving line, introduce, because it's amazing. We don't think of it, but Jeff will start finding out. I know he's already started to. When people say, "Oh my gosh, you're the mayor," you know, especially the younger people, it really means something to them to see and shake somebody's hand or be introduced. And you know, then you meet somebody, and then you see them a couple weeks down the road, and they say, "Oh, hey, I met you at the Mayor's Breakfast. You're the mayor of E-Town, aren't you?" You know, and it means something to them. And so we want to make sure that we all come together at the beginning of the year, and this is one of the best ways that we can, you know, we'll start it off. And then maybe down the road, you know, maybe Jeff will come up with something. We all support each other. As you remember, I always get it wrong. Bikers, Blues, and Bikes, or Barbecue Blues and Bikes.
Yeah.
The very first year. Remember we all did the eating competition and all that stuff. And there's a great picture of all of us.
Hey, we could do really good with that eating competition.
Tell me about it.
I can win.
Tell me about it. So yeah, definitely. I think bringing that unity back to in the community is going to be a great thing that Jeff and I and some of the others will be able to do.
Yeah, now I know in E-Town there's already a few established events that do really, really well. Barbecue Blues and Bikes being one, and Cruising Heartland another. So do you have plans to do any more community events or outreach, or are you happy with what we have here in town?
Well, you know, Sarah Vaughn is our events coordinator, and she is magnificent and does a wonderful job. And we do have Barbecue Blues and Bikes in place and Cruising the Heartland, and then we have the concert series that we're doing at the State Theater, which is going to bring 4 to 5 concerts a year annually. Some other things. What people need to understand, though, a lot of times that these events that we put on, they're not money makers. JJ can attest to that. It's all quality of life, and it's about getting people out and having a good time. And while we want to do as many of those as we can, people need to understand sometimes they can get expensive because it's not just about closing the street and putting a bunch of vendors out there. You've got police and public works that are working overtime to make sure things are clean and safe, and the fire department, different things out there. So it can get costly, but what I would encourage is input from the community and see what other kind of events they'd like to see, and we'll definitely look at them and see if it's something we can make happen. But right now, I think we got a pretty good handle on some things during the year that really promote quality of life in Elizabethtown.
The Heartland Parade too. Yeah.
Heartland Parade, that's right.
So, speaking of having a grip on things, what is at the end of this term? I know it's hard to say that because you're just starting the whole deal. At the end of this term, what is one thing that you would like people to look back on your first term and say, this is what was a great thing?
Well, there's a few for me, not to speak out of turn. I don't know if you want Southside development, East Dixie corridor. A lot of people feel like it's been neglected for years, and while there may be some truth to that, there's some things going on out there that make it tough to develop it. But what I want to do is get a task force together, which is a pretty word for a committee, and make sure that we have some people that cover different areas of business and development in the city, and put them on that task force and see what ideas they can come up with, and pledge to them from the city standpoint, we're going to put the infrastructure in place to be able to make that successful out there and to revitalize that. Much like you've seen revitalization of downtown E-Town, we hope to push that south just a little bit. So that's one thing I'd like to see get started. I don't by any means think by the end of this year we're going to have that done. Just maybe we're getting some groundwork in place and we can get some opportunities for people. Another thing that I would like to do, and I talked about it during my campaign, I'd like to see school resource officers put in all of our public schools in the city limits. We do already have some in place, and as we speak, there's negotiations being made for more. But I think where we are, and on a national stage, you see the problems that a lot of people are running into, and God forbid that happens in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, or Radcliff, Kentucky, or one of our local communities. I want to be able to say that we've at least approached and done everything that we can to try to keep our kids as safe as they can be. So that's two things. There's a big long list that I could go over, but JJ likes to talk, so we'll let him in.
All right, JJ, what do you see?
Well, as Jeff mentioned, the task force. We started one, the North End Partnership, and from there we were able to have several people sit on that committee, and so it wasn't a long process. But, we are talking about a Redmar project now, which consists of several different things. And so eventually things can pop up, and then Jeff's heading directly down the right path in identifying that property. The more you grease that squeaky wheel, the more people pay attention to it. And so it's definitely a great idea that he's looking at that because we've done it. When I was in the first time, as you said earlier, I really felt like the community was on kind of a negative path. And so we did a lot more community spirit, organized things, festivals, parades. I was kind of coined, what was it? Pancakes, parade, picnics, and parties. That was my thing.
Yeah.
And so
I wasn't going to say that, but thanks for bringing that up.
My 4 Ps. That was my 4 Ps. And so ultimately, I think this go around is going to be a little bit more economic development driven and probably budget. Jeff was facing the same thing I am with the pension system. Now we have the Supreme Court knocking that down. It also knocked down the fact that we don't have the phase in of that, and so the legislators are going to have to look at that because I think ours is about 1.3 or 1.4. I know yours is a lot more with your employees, and so with a $12 million operational budget, that's not. I mean, I can't take $1 million out of that. So our reserves are fairly stable, but still, I think the budget and economic development is going to be my two that I want to look back on in 4 years and see some accomplishments. So.
Good. I look forward to seeing what you guys are doing, and it is a change for you. It is a little different, but I applaud you for doing that because then you look and see where you are now and where you need to go in the next few years. Let's talk Fort Knox too, because we know how important Fort Knox is to this area, and we've had meetings with Fort Knox over the years and have been able to come up with ways to get them more involved with the community and getting folks more involved on post. And that's one of the things too with Kentucky's Heartland is we want to be able to bridge that gap as well. What do you see the needs are with Radcliff and with E-Town and as far as Fort Knox goes?
Well, Fort Knox for us is our Metulsa, our Alltech, our industry outside of our city limits in a sense. It's a $2.6 billion economic impact regionally is what Fort Knox hits. And so Redmar, again, goes back to that. I've got to have something outside the gate because of that blight we've seen over the last 15, 20 years. But ultimately, during the time, the garrison commander is our partner. That's the mayor of Fort Knox, him and his sergeant major. And so even though we don't deal with the whole CG on post as much as we do the garrison. And so the problem that we actually run into is the garrison commander is about a 2-year term. Every 2 years we get a new one. And we were kind of spoiled with Bruce Jenkins, as we mentioned. Bruce was a very good community partner. So for me, I got to reestablish that and engage that again. I know Jeff is eager to get over there as well. And so getting all the mayors back together and getting us sitting down with our counterpart on post, because a lot of those 20-some thousand people that are 4,500 that work at HRC and the general contractor and everybody live in our communities. And so we want to make sure that we're servicing their needs as well, but we also want to make sure they understand our concerns and needs outside the post.
All right, what about you, Jeff?
Well, just to follow up on a little bit of what JJ said, it is very important because we have a ton of people that live in E-Town in our city limits that go over there and work at Fort Knox and have for years in those great civil service jobs that have provided for their families and everything else. So it's all about relationships and making sure that we're all on the same page. But another thing that, and I even talked about it a little bit during my campaign, there's so much knowledge and wisdom and resources that come from people that get sent to Fort Knox. And then a lot of them, you'll find, JJ, more than me, they love it here, and they want to stay here and they want to retire. Well, those people have been all over the country, and they've seen different cities and what works in those cities and what we could do here. And you know, if you'll listen to them and include them and acknowledge what they've seen, they're a great resource. And so I want to try to build some more relationships with some of these retirees that have come out into our communities and made Elizabethtown and Radcliff a home, and get their opinion on some things that we can do better that they've seen in other cities where they've lived across the country or even abroad.
Yeah, that is the truth. That I've noticed a lot of that, and in the running community around here, there are a lot of folks that were stationed at Fort Knox that they retired here and they've stayed here because they love the quality of life that we have here. And you know, that's something you mentioned too. I think with Radcliff and E-Town, we have an amazing outdoor recreation system when you think about it, with green space here in E-Town and Saunders Springs and Radcliff. I mean, those are I don't want to call them hidden treasures, but honestly, they kind of are hidden treasures around here. And I know you've spent a lot of time, and there's been a lot of work done at Saunders Springs.
Yeah, we've got it's almost nearly 100 acres, natural preserve, miles and miles of trails, miles and trails of biking paths, beautiful waterfalls. You know, just it's a great thing. And there's been a lot of investment made over the past 4 years. You know, we partnered with Fort Knox when I was in to get an additional 74 acres off the installation that we've turned into bike trails. And so definitely a hidden gem. I own a business across the street from Saunders Springs, and up until I was there a lot, I didn't realize the traffic that came in and out of our park. And so definitely a gem. Freeman Lake down here, I think they allow, I know you love to canoe there.
Canoe?
Yeah.
Canoe?
Is it canoeing or
It's
kayaking?
kayaking.
Kayaking,
Yeah,
there you go.
that's
there
okay.
Yeah.
I won't fault you that because you probably haven't spent much time in a kayak.
I don't think I could fit, but yeah, But no, we're proud of our stuff up there, and like I said, it's something that we're continuing to grow and work on our park system to make it very feasible and nice for our community.
Good. Well, I hope to be able to do this, every so often, so we can keep people updated with what's going on between both cities and our community, and have Mayor Ogden here as well, and some other folks, and we'll reach outside the county too. But anything you guys want to wrap up with today? First of all, I do appreciate you guys taking time to do that. I know you've got a lot of stuff going on as you get settled into the seat here. Well, you don't even have an office yet, but you're just kind of getting your office settled in.
I'm just happy to be there.
No, I would just say I appreciate you having both of us on. We look forward to working with you in the future. And although I know this is December 27th, it's going to air in the new year, so I'd like to wish everybody a happy new year and thank them for their confidence in me. And I'm going to work hard, and we're going to get a lot of things done, hopefully.
All right. What about you, James Jr.?
Well, I want to say over the past 15, 16 years, I've heard your voice on the radio. It's really nice to finally see what you look like behind the. And
you're just as disappointed.
Radio face.
Yeah, radio.
I got a face for radio and a voice for newspapers. That's how it works out.
No, I think coming in, this is I am not only my hair more seasoned, I am more seasoned. Coming into this job, and I know what to expect, and I know what some of the things are we have to work on in our community. But it's going to be exciting times. I look forward to it. I really and truly, honestly, enjoy looking for the partnerships that we're going to build, the community relationships. I think the public wants that and wants to see that. And so it's up to leadership to make that decision on the perceptions of our communities. And I think we always had a great relationship with the Elizabethtown City Council as well as Vine Grove. get Billy Ash involved, and you've got a four-legged trio. So I don't even know if that's a word.
It is now.
Yeah.
Hey, it is in Radcliffe. You
There
can
it
make it
is.
up. You can sign that
So,
right in now.
Yeah, so I do, and I thank you for having us down. A lot more to come, a lot more interviews, and a lot more videos, and we look forward to what you have on the horizon, and then supporting you on your venture as well, Greg. So.
Can I brag on myself? I did not put a phone book in your seat to make you any taller. So I'm proud
It's
of
a
myself
wonder-
for not playing that joke.
How long y'all been married now?
Huh?
How long you?
20 years.
God bless her.
I know. God bless
bless
her.
her.
Yeah. All right. Mayor of Radcliff, J.J. Duvall, Mayor of E-Town, Jeff Gregory. It's Greg Milby, and you're watching Kentucky's Heartland.